So a company needs to build a large web application, say something like an online banking app. What do? Well, they get in a conference room, and a business analyst interviews future users of the yet-to-be-built application and finds out what they want and what they need. And he gets information. A lot of information. They explain what they want and what they don't want, what they think they need and what they think they don't need, what they don't want to see and what it should look like. And all that information is put into what's called a requirements document. And it's massive. Then a business analyst meets with the suits that run the business and finds out what they want and need. And he gets a whole lot more information. And all of that information is added to the requirements document. Now, once the final version of this document is complete, it's passed back and forth between the analysts and the business execs and the users while they collectively try to figure out if what's in it is the right thing to build. And while this is happening, each is making their own additions and subtractions. And all of these changes are incorporated back into that massive requirements document, making it nearly impossible to track and understand. And what is the root of the problem? Text is ambiguous. Two words can mean drastically different things to two different people. Now, if just two words can be interpreted so differently, imagine 10,000. So the business gets together and decides, based on the requirements document, how much money and time to put toward building the application. So once everything is signed off on, they give the requirements document over to the IT department, along with the whole lot of time and money. And it's their job to decipher the document and build the application contained within. So many months and dollars later, the business has their new web application. So they take their newly built app back to the users to see what they think. And guess what? They hate it. Why? Because the business analyst misinterpreted some of what they asked for. The IT department misinterpreted some of what the business analyst asked for. Things they thought they wanted they really don't need, and a bunch of stuff they do need is missing because they didn't know to ask for it, because they didn't know they'd need those things until they had a chance to use the application and find out. And by the way, someone forgot to include a submit button on the change password form. So now the business has to go back and figure out how much more time and money to spend fixing the application. So why did this all happen? Because text is ambiguous, and that huge document is nearly impossible to understand. And if the user can't picture the application, they can't understand it and give accurate feedback. What they need is a way to test drive the application before it's been built. Can you imagine giving feedback on a car before you've driven it? Until you wrapped your hands around the steering wheel and felt how it handled around the turns? Until you know how well the brakes work? Or if they work at all? The reality is, this is a horrible way to define business applications. As is this, and this, and this, or any combination in between. Now, this static screenshot might look better, but the fact is it's flat and non-interactive. You might as well remove all functionality completely because it tells you nothing about how the application will perform. And if the user can't interact with it, it's virtually useless. Now, what if that business analyst had a tool that allowed him to easily create a mirror of the final application before a dime was spent building it? The user could log in and view their account just as they would the final application. They could interact with it and get a feel for how it would perform. They could see how the branch locations page would work, along with all functionality connected to it. And for those users dispersed around the world, what if you could email a version to them which they could test out and add their feedback? And they could even tie feedback to a specific item on the page. And once finished, they're all sent back and imported to the central server. What if there was already an application that was revolutionizing the way applications were built? There is.